sharing some insights on how to go about this. So let's begin. Using a one and probably the next kin, but you can't have access to the money in their bank account after their demise. This imagination is some people's reality. It could be your husband or your wife or your parents or your children. The bottom line is this: you know for a fact that they have monies in XYZ accounts. It could be Nigeria Info account. They could have like 3 million there. It could be on Wazobia account. They have like 10 million. It could be on any account at all and they have money there. But you go to the bank and you say, I am the next of kin of Mr. Wakacha. This is proof. The man was my father and I knew he had money in this bank. I have come to collect the money. And they say, well, okay, do like this or do not do like this. Some people have done back and forth. And at some point, they got tired and he said, you know what? You people should collect. I'm not doing again. I personally have experienced it twice. Trying to access funds from, the account of someone who is no longer alive. I'm going to tell you what one of the bankers told me. They said if I had my late father's debit card, I could as well just go to the ATM and use the PIN to withdraw everything. I said, he doesn't have a card, and even if he did, I wasn't privy to the PIN. And they said, oh, you had to go like this or do like this. At some point, I asked myself, how much is in the account, Seth? You know what? Let it go. So, I had to reach out to Barrister Jubilee Wakoro. He will come and explain to us the right steps that someone can take to recover money from a deceased relative's account, and how can the banks and even the account owners before their demise make it a lot easier for their families to access their account after their demise. And what happens to monies? I'm particularly interested in this last question. What happens to monies not retrieved from deceased people's accounts? So, Barrister Jubilee, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Denise.
Okay, thank you so much for being here. So let's just dive right into the conversation, shall we?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so we're going to use someone as an example. Let's say Mrs. Gladys
Okay.
Eberechi is no more. And either Mrs. Gladys' daughter or son or even husband needs to get the money in Mrs. Gladys, which sometimes can, I think I'm going to share this particular one with you. You know all these people that do contribution?
Oh, yes.
Yes, they do contribution and they contributed to a particular person.
Yeah,
and then the person dies. And then the people that contributed come to the family of the person to say, see, we have been contributing this money. It was my turn, or it will be my turn next year or next month. And the family people are aware. In fact, if they still have the mobile phones of these persons, they can see the credit or the debit alert. They can see the account balance. And they're some way, somehow supposed to recover that money and then distribute to as many people as did the contribution. So it could be for something like that. It could be for accessing money for even the burial. Say, somebody had kept money that if I die, collect money from my account and bury me. But accessing the funds generally, but what are the things that the person should know and what should they do?
All right. Essentially, I like to address things from the root. So I will start from who the next of kin is.
Okay.
Yeah. The next of kin is someone that is defined as the closest relative in law. And that does not mean heir or beneficiary of will. It doesn't mean anything, actually.
Okay.
Yes, because people have this mindset that next of kin means the person gets the monies in this person's account automatically. It means nothing of the sort. In fact, next of kin sometimes can even be like, if we are looking for you, This is the person. Next of kin is more of liability than asset. Next of kin means that you are ready to share liabilities, not necessarily assets. Okay. So with that clear, so that the person doesn't come with an entitled mindset. Okay. With that clear, we'll now proceed to who has the right to access funds in the accounts of a late person. I will get straight to the example you used. First of all, we have to give the bank a certified true copy of a certificate of debt, what is called debt certificate.
Debt certificate, okay.
That has to be clear, because anybody can fake their own debt, and anybody can claim that someone is dead. I mean, someone can lock someone up. We have had people kill their relatives to inherit property, so someone can as well kidnap someone, and then after 30 days, go to the bank and say, this man is dead. So the only way is to get a death certificate. Now, if someone dies in an accident or dies in a circumstance where he or she cannot be said, they can't find the body of the person, there is a procedure for that. There is an affidavit for that. Yes, there is an affidavit for that. That this person is missing and is presumed dead.
Okay.
And then the person deposing to that affidavit, who is looking for what is called a letter of administration, which is the crux of this whole thing, will also undertake in that affidavit that if it is discovered that this person is alive and you've taken custody of the person's assets, you have undertaken to indemnify the person both in the assets and in damages or whatever the person has lost by reason of your taking away those assets.
Okay.
Now, that having been said, the next of kin, a relative or anybody, can approach the court, what we call the probate division of the court in that state, for what is called a letter of administration. I literally had to come with my hard copy rules because we have a new 2023 Rivers State High Court rules that came into effect about 2 months ago.
Okay.
And it has literally changed the paradigm of how these things are done in Rivers State.
Okay.
Yes, so that I have to be precise. If I'm making references to that provision of law, it is for Rivers State.
Okay.
There will be 1 or 2 slight differences in some other states, but essentially the law will remain the same. It may be how you go about it, but then you have to still get it. So what you need to access funds belonging to a deceased person is letters of administration. These letters of administration or letter of administration is not a letter in quotes, is a court process, it's a court document, is a letter issued from the court. It's not something you write or your lawyer writes.
Okay.
You apply for it. When you apply for letters of administration to the probate division, that is a department of the High Court in that state, there are 2 possibilities. It is either the person has a will, the person who is deceased has a will, or does not have a will. If this person has a will, it's easier. Because a will states specifically what goes to whom. Okay, all my money in United Bank for Africa, UBA PLC, goes to my 4th son, Moses. So nobody else can come to the bank or to the court to obtain those funds that are clearly willed to Moses.
Wow.
So that's precise. But then there is letter of administration without will. This is separated between order 60 and order 61 of the Rivers State High Court Rules 2023. It's right here itself. So that is it. So there is letter of administration with will, there's letter of administration without will. If I go that direction, I might poke some people's religious mindset, but I would always suggest you have a will. Once you are over 40 and you have 1 or 2 assets, have a will. You're not wishing yourself dead. Have a will. Yes. Here in Africa, we think that if you do that, it's like you're calling for what you don't want. But I'm not enforcing. It's just legal advice, open general legal advice. Have a will. You save your family a lot of stress, because a will is registered at that probate division. When you do it, you register it at that probate division. So all they need to do is just pick it out and act on it.
Right.
Now, but if your dad didn't leave a will, or if the example you used, Eberechi, did not leave a will, and then you have to get letters of administration without will, you now have to go to that bank. First of all, you have to ascertain the account number, ascertain the bank, and ascertain how much is in that account. You will require that to make the application for letters of administration. Now, to ease up things, the Freedom of Information Act has made it so easy. You can apply to the bank, write a simple letter, or get a lawyer to write it to the bank, asking them to state what is in that account, so that you will know if it is worth the process.
Okay.
So when you write that, because both, in fact, it's so fine now that even a creditor, someone that is being owed money, like the example you gave, someone that contributed, the association can come together and write to the bank and say, this man died owing us, this woman died owing us, she has our monies. In fact, the monies in the bank are our personal money. So you can go to the bank and obtain letters of administration. You can also go to the court, obtain letters of administration and go to the bank. You can also go to the court and then just get an order of court of Mareva to garnish your money from the person's account, whether the person is living or dead. It changes nothing. Now, when a person dies, all their assets is vested in something, an abstract term called their estate.
Okay.
So you hear bankers and lawyers use the expression, the estate of the deceased, the estate of late Mr. This, the estate of late Mr. They're not talking about a compound where he has houses. They're talking about everything he left in his estate, in his shoes, in his place. Everything he left, everything belonging to him, both his debts that he's owing and the debts that are owed him. Okay, so you can sue the estate of a person. If the person was owing you, you can go to court and say, my lord, we are suing the estate of late Mr. So-and-so. And then the court will say, okay, is there anything belonging to that man now? And then you take the probate process and pick the things belonging to him. Usually it is antagonists that the man was owing that are more serious about getting letters of arbitration than the family. So, because they need their money, it's not just something, when your parent dies and leaves you money, it's almost like a gift, but this is their money. Maybe they did a contract, the money was paid into Mr. XYZ's account, he was to disburse, and then he died. It's in those days that people say, oh, the man has died, he has, you're praying for your debtor not to die. That's that's in the past. Now, living or dead, a man has an estate. So your estate is everything that belongs to you, even when you are alive. So when you are no more, your estate. That's why if I get a court judgment against Mr. XYZ, let me use another abstract name, or Mr. ABC, or Mrs. Eberechi, like you used. If I get a judgment or something against that person, I can enforce it against the person without meeting the person. I can go straight to the bank and then serve the writ of execution on the bank. In fact, one of my clients had a funny situation. They came after him while he was in his car and they were trying to pick things from his apartment. They felt that the things in his apartment were not enough to justify, that was when he became, because they sued him and he refused to go to court. He felt that if I don't go, he thought his in community, if they sue you and you don't go, you are safe. It doesn't happen in court. If you are sued in court and you don't show up, better. In fact, someone will say that I'm using this to explain how real you can actually get funds belonging. So you don't have to look for the dead man or his coffin. You only have to ascertain that this debt was actually owed. So they went after him, blocked his car. So he now ran to me that they've taken his car, that he didn't go to court. I said, hey, you helped them by not going to court. You helped them by not going. So if the man is late or the woman is late and she's owing people, their money is not gone. The difficult aspect of it is information. However, this BVN introduction has made a lot of things easier. In fact, there's something called the GSI policy that the central bank expanded. Policy empowers banks is 300,000. Then you have 2 million in First Bank, and you don't want to pay Access Bank, so you are avoiding routing your money through Access Bank. So any money, don't pay money inside my. You hear people say, "Don't pay money in my OPay account." Oh. I have problem with them. He doesn't have any problem with them. He's owing them, and he doesn't want to pay. So when you hear things like that, the solution is the banks now activate the GSI policy. It's even worse for the debtor because CBN now has a charge. So any account linked to that same BVN number, any account linked to that BVN is bank verification number. Any account linked to that BVN will be siphoned as agreed in the loan agreement. If it is 30% of the money per month, they will be taking it. Except you don't have now all the microcredits, all of them. I just mentioned one now. All of them still require BVN now. So with the BVN link, you can simply write to the bank or to the CBN and then ask for information. And then if you get an order of court or a letter of administration, the court will just empower you to. So sometimes people also die and their relatives know that, my dad used to have a Union Bank account. But there was this bank where he had money. There are men that are very secretive. I was going to say because... Okay. Especially when they have children that are...
very naughty. Or they have partners that the thing is shady. So they don't know that...
They don't know where the man has money. Yeah, they don't know. I experienced something, went to buy land for a client. And the client said, okay, go to my son to collect account number. And then the son said, no, we are not selling that property. Land that belongs to the man. So the man already knew that there was a rift. So I think there's this notice that trended. It was a meme. This property is not for sale. Beware of my son. Hey, you don't know the boy's name. Was it Kokechiko or something? Or Rukewe? So something like that. So sorry, if your name is that, I'm not referring to you. I'm just referring to... Okay. So that kind of stuff exists where this man... And it's not even that only. Some people have equities. Some people have bought bonds. Because the last lap of your question makes this part very, very critical. Because every sum belonging to a deceased person that is not claimed by the family reverts to the state. State means to the government. But you see, it will require the bank to play the role of a good Samaritan, which I don't know if the bankers are that holy. They are supposed to say, CBN, which is the government regulatory agency, CEO, this man is dead. This is his money. Nobody has done the needful. So time
that
has
is
lapsed.
They have to know that the man is dead first. So how do they know?
So I'm saying that, well, even the most they can do is make the account dormant and then be trading with the money. So you have accounts that have been dormant for 10 years, 15 years, 8 years, until the bank is even sold and the account goes on to the new bank and all of that. So it's to the credit of the bank. So that's why I said I don't think the banks can be that, even if they were so pious, they still need that proof. So essentially what you need to do is get to the bank, or first of all get to the court, apply for a general.
The bank first or the court first?
When you don't know
how much,
where there is money and how much there is,
okay,
go to the court. I need an affidavit. I want to depose to an affidavit that this person is dead, or I have his death certificate. I want a letter of administration covering his assets. Then that letter of administration now appoints you as his administrator, the administrator of his assets, of his estate actually. If the person is dead, it's called the executor of the will. Then if the person left a will rather, if the person died testate, we'll call it testate. If the person now died without a will, it's called intestate. The person died intestate. The person left without a will. So that asset belonging to the person, his estate, can be managed by way of an administrator appointed. So letter of administration is essentially appointing you as an administrator of the man's estate. You also bring a bond. You bring sureties. There's quite some procedure there. But the procedure is not meant to make it more difficult for the relatives. The procedure is to ensure that just nobody walks in from just anywhere.
I was going to ask, if a man has 10 naughty children, and
Yes.
all the 10 children say we
Apply.
go and collect letter of administration.
Yeah, then we have what is called a contentious application. When there is a contentious application, they will now, just like when they contend a will, we have seen people present 3 wills. Say, oh, barrister, so and so was my father's lawyer. No, this is the person that was. No, that's the will. That will is, they prepared it and just took his hand and rubbed there. It's not the, whatever it is, a will can be challenged. But because a will is registrable, it makes it easier. So when the will was registered, when a particular will was registered, it means that that one takes precedence. If it was registered in the probate division or even registered as a registrable instrument, it becomes, especially when it has to do with land, it becomes clear. So that is the cinch to it. But I feel that it is better if people have differences, they should resolve it before they approach the court, so they don't watch their little lenience in court. But then, when there is serious resources left behind, I mean, there are people who die. They have a plaza at Rumogba, they have a plaza in Lekki, they have block of flats in VI. I've never seen those things go straight. There's always some litigation, and it's worth it. If you're looking for 10 billion, you can spend 10 million to fight for it. So they go to court and then they contend. The court finally awards. So you now see why, because we've seen cases where people sued banks for releasing funds belonging to a dead person to a wrong person. In fact, this even applies with lands. Somebody is late. Who is the right person to sell his property? Who is the right person to give you a deed of conveyance? Is it the man's wife? You buy from the man's wife, she passes on some years later, and the children are grown up, and they said, well, we don't know what you're talking about. So, essentially, it's important that we do these procedural things. They are easier now. Yes, they are easier now, and because now there is more division of labor. That the word division actually sounds more like division of labor. We have the family court, we have the probate division, we have different. We even have the small claims court. So we have different. So these probates they are more specialized now. So you just go there.
So now I'm going to ask,
Okay.
if I'm going to go through all of these processes, is it going to cost me anything financially? And if yes, how much? Yes, now I cannot be pursuing 5,000 naira in my late uncle's account or in my mother's account, and the process to get the 5,000 naira is costing more than it.
Well, essentially, let me pass out a little bit of advice too. Then I'll answer your question. If you have a registered company and you're beginning to see some money, and you have some money, I suggest that everybody who is advanced, I'm talking about those that are the ones that could be diseased at some point, which everybody could actually be eventually, will be eventually. Nobody will live forever. So far, we've not seen. So, if the funds are in an account belonging to that company, you see, a limited liability company. I've sang it like a song. Stop this business name thing. Upgrade your business to a limited liability company. A limited liability company has perpetual succession. That grammar means that the company continues to exist after the owner is dead. You have God is Good motors, you have Faith motors, you have Best this, you have. So if there is money in the company account, the children can be appointed as directors. If they were already directors before the man disease, nothing changes. They will just, in the official seal of the company, write to the bank and change the signatories to the account. Because a company is a different entity from the man. So this scenario is an exception to what we have discussed. I had to point that out. Now, if you're talking about money, well, I have to speak not just professionally, but practically. If the amount in that account is not sufficient to mobilize court action, then I don't think you should go through that rigor, because you will spend some money in court. and I don't think anybody will go to court to claim 5,000. Although I can't tell, but then
it's our father's money. It doesn't matter how much. It's his legacy.
Well, I think the banks can help, but law doesn't empower them to do that without letters of administration. Law doesn't empower them to do that. But I think some banks, especially when the amount is not so much, can attend to things like affidavits, and affidavits showing that you are this person's next of kin and things like that. But most times, being practical here, most times the sums that will make people take these steps are what litigation eventually. So you can go walk into the probate registry. You want letters of administration because there are fees to be paid too. There are fees to be paid. So I am not saying that it's a very easy process. I wouldn't say that. If I said that, we are hoping that, like, we have the small claims court now, which has made it much easier. The other day I was in the small claims court. Somebody was in court to claim 72,000. I'm not sure the person spent up to 5K. Wow. Yeah. So all you need to do is you go there, file the demand letter, file the claim. It's always easier if the person on the other side cooperates. If the person doesn't, then you have to put in the full machinery of the law and all of that. So that is the thing. That's just it.
So you're not telling us exactly how much.
Amount. Well,
you are just saying that we will spend money.
Okay, the thing is that you either go in directly to do it by yourself, or you're getting the services of a legal practitioner. Now, if you're getting the services of a legal practitioner, I can't tell what his fees will be because he's not me. I can only tell what my fees will be. And then percentage can be considered if the sum is bulky.
The legal practitioner will take a percentage?
No, like, how do I put this? If you are, I will look at how much you are claiming to determine how much the charge will be.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I can say my charge will be around 10% or 20 or 15 or 5 or 50, depending on the sum. If the sum is 5 billion, a lawyer could take like 5 or 10%.
Okay.
So essentially that is just
so what would the person spend at the probate court?
Yeah.
Should the person decide not to go through a lawyer?
If the person decides not to go through a lawyer, you see, like I said, it's still not hardwired. Before now, you had to pay a percentage of the assessed value of the assets.
Okay.
That is that amount to the court. I think it's about 10%. You would have to pay that. So, and that makes many people run away from that procedure. So there is that corner where you have to pay some money. But then I think that it's just generally better to just get a letter of administration that is general, empowering you to administer the person's asset, do the entire hog, then you go and start tracing the accounts and getting your money.
Money. Wow, that has been a lot. I was going to ask this question, yeah. Is it possible for you to walk into a bank, supply an account detail and say, my late father has an account here. This is the account number. I am so and so person. Can I know how much is in the account?
Yes, but it's better if it's in writing.
If it's in writing?
Yes, put that in writing.
And they would oblige?
Yes, you will address it to the manager. You apply to know so that you can go to the bank to. And then, of course, as you are doing that, you are coming with the death certificate.
The death certificate.
That's the only way they can know that the person is late. He's a late father, not a living father that Rukewe wants to.
All right, I will open the phone lines now. I presume some listeners will have questions, specific questions as far as the said matter of accessing money from a deceased relative's bank account is concerned. Relatives could mean a spouse, anybody, but you identify as somebody. And if a person is an orphan,
orphan, like
a person has no mother, no father, and is a young person that has money.
and then the person passes away.
Yes.
And has no child.
Hey, are you saying girlfriends and boyfriends can?
Yeah, anybody can. That's why I'm saying it's not really the nest. You see, that nest of kin thing is a cliche.
I just go say, this man
No,
was
you have to go to court. Yes,
was
and then show that
my lover.
Especially if you show that you were dependent on the person. There are facts you have to prove.
He used to take care of me.
Yes.
He was on pay my school fees and my rent.
But it's better when there is conjugal. Maybe marriage. It's easier to prove because it's not a straight jacket thing. You have to convince the judge that you are entitled to the grant of these letters of administration.
Okay, 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003, 0817-923-0007, and then the female caller line is 0817-923-0009. We have the WhatsApp and Telegram number. It is 0809-030-6416. Now, is the bank entitled to any percentage of the monies in that account?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. They're only entitled to their charges.
Their charges.
Of course, charges like SMS. They've been sending SMS to the late man's number.
That one they've been deducting it to.
So things like
what
that.
What about the government?
Debit maintenance. No, the government has nothing to do with that. Except you're talking about the court now. And that's an arm of government. Maybe there is a fee to be paid at the
someone once told me that in trying to retrieve XYZ amount from his late father's account, the government took like 10% of the total.
He was talking about the court. The court is the judicial arm of government, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but not that the governor of the state.
So that percent they are taking is for what?
Well, it's because the law says they can't take it.
But it's not their own.
Well, they keep the thing working. They are paying salaries to judges.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
So let's assume my late father had 10 billion.
Yes.
And I managed to recover the 10 billion. I should part with a whole 1 billion.
Well, there are things people do around that, and I won't say that on air.
It's okay. Let's hear from Walter. Walter from Rukwaku. Turn off your radio set, please. Okay, Walter will have to call back. Now, this question I'd like to ask you. What do you think the banks and even the account holders can do to make it a lot easier for their families to access monies in their accounts after their demise?
Account holders register a limited liability company.
Okay.
Put your funds in the account of that limited liability company. The powers given to a limited liability company are wide, very wide. It's unfortunate that I have to give this example, but even internet fraudsters are benefiting massively from the provisions of CAMA regarding limited liability companies. So they pass their monies through limited liability companies and they are safe. So if you register it there, your children can just take it from the company and continue.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I see. So just limited liability company.
Yeah, register a company. Let the money be in the company's name, not your personal name.
Okay, I was thinking you say something like, always tell your family people, this is my PIN, this is my card, this is how much I have.
Well, you might not. The monies might go while you're still alive.
Okay, let's hear from Walter. Hi, Walter. Welcome. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Please, I want to ask my brother in the studio, because all he was saying was legally. You go through court processes. Assuming somebody, before he dies, he called his relations and then told them, this and this belongs to this person, this and this belongs to this, including the daughters. Is it applicable? Does God grant that? That's my question.
Barrister Jube, do you understand his question?
Yes, I understand him. If the person was dying and said, this amount in UBA belongs to Tony, this one in First Bank belongs to Johnson, the other one belongs to Udwak, The problem is, how do you prove it? When you get to court, how do you prove it? If you recorded the person, because we've just had a beautiful thing happen in the legal profession, the Evidence Amendment Act, the amendment of 2023. It has expanded Section 84 of the Evidence Act 2011 that even video chats, video calls are now admissible in evidence. And people can testify in court through a video call. So somebody that is abroad does not have to fly down to testify in court. He can be on Zoom, and with TV, he can adopt his with a TV placed in the court, as with access to internet. He can adopt his witness deposition and be cross-examined. So if you people videoed your late father or brother or uncle or relative when he was making that statement, I went to this police station the other day, one unit, and my client was saying he was threatened, and then they asked him, do you have proof when he was threatening you? Did you record him? So if you videoed the man, that video document is called, if that video record is called a document under Section 84 by the interpretation of Section 258 of the Evidence Act. So it's a document, so you can tender it.
Now they doctor things, so they do Photoshop and...
there is a procedure for tendering the document, so it will be very difficult for it to pass through. Yeah, that procedure will have to show that, okay, this particular device was being used at this time for this kind of thing, and so stuff like that.
Someone says, good afternoon, Denise and the lawyer in the house. Who issues death certificate? How long does it take to get it? TM from Oyibo.
The hospital, signed by a doctor. Usually a government hospital. They are more akin to government hospitals. The hospital, is signed by a doctor. So.
Okay.
And of course, the doctors have their seal and all that, whatever they put on it to show that it's official.
Official. Someone says, I see something like POD, pay on death, on social media for like 3 times now. I don't know if there's anything like that. I didn't listen from the beginning. Good afternoon. Pay on death. Do you know what that is?
POD is essentially a foreign arrangement. I think CBN is not, it hasn't gained ground here, but GSI has gained ground. It's essentially about asking the bank or whoever that if this person dies, this amount should be paid to that person. Well, you have to also be sure that that person is alive by the time this person, what if they die together? So, God forbid, but then, so it exists, yes, it does exist. Okay. But I think it's a special arrangement. It's not yet that popular.
Okay. Amaka, good afternoon to you. Welcome. Go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon to the guests in the studio.
Good afternoon.
I want to ask a quick one. In terms of loan, especially these online apps, do they have any permit to take any money from your account? Say you didn't meet up to their terms and conditions or the agreement. You take a loan from these loan companies online, and for one reason or the other you can't meet up. Do they have the right to take?
Okay, Amaka, I'd like to stop you there. First of all, that question is not in connection with what we are discussing, but I think I understand your question. I think Barrister Jubilee also mentioned...
Yes, I already said that. It's a GSI policy. Even though some people intend to challenge that policy in court, but there is not a courtroom anyway.
All right, someone says, when is the last procedure... Okay, let me hear from God's Power in on air first. Nigerian for good afternoon to you and welcome. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, double D plus W.
Good afternoon. Go ahead.
The lady that uses...
Go ahead. Just go ahead. There's no time.
Good afternoon to the lawyer.
Good afternoon, sir.
Please, I want to ask, what about in the case of shares? A relative bought shares and the shares from different banks or from different firms, as the case may be. So if the person passed away, how can the shares be assessed.
Okay.
This is lost power.
All right, Barrister Jubilee, you have 1 minute to answer that
Same
question.
procedure. You will still need the letter of administration from the court. Then you will write to the company where he held the shares, company, bank, whatever institution, and then copy the Securities and Exchange Act. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC.
All right, when is the last procedure in the process? After you're called that your letter of administration is ready, is there any more process? I was called for that. The one I applied for through a lawyer is ready, and I have given a letter of authority to the lawyer to ask, is there any more processes? Anonymous, send that in.
Well, I don't know, except your lawyer is asking. If your lawyer is asking you for money for something, I can't, and you want to ask me to, because the way you're asking is there any more processes? Is to collect the this that go to the bank now, except there's something that's not been done. Maybe it's not been certified. Yeah, that means it's not really ready.
Hello all, does the death certificate imply autopsy must be done on the dead person? Ideally, does corpse have to be taken to the hospital for verification? Same way we are talking of inheritance today, the relatives entitled to assets also have responsibility in terms of liability. Michael from Okrika.
Okay, I think that's both a question and a contribution. Well, but essentially, yes, there needs to be a confirmation that the person is dead. Doesn't mean they have to open the person up. They have the way of checking. Simple devices will check if there's a blood pressure, if there's a pulse. They have a way of confirming death now. That's medical.
Okay. Didi, your guest should talk more about where unclaimed money goes to, please. Dave, send that in.
Well, it goes to the government, of course. I have not denied that.
He said the banks will be sincere.
Yeah, if the court has, if they even know, if they have a way of knowing.
Someone says, hello, presenter, can death certificates be gotten from government hospital in a situation where the death took place in the disease home?
Yes, when the person dies, you're not supposed to take. You're supposed to take the person to the hospital to confirm. You don't even have a right to say somebody's dead if you're not a doctor. It's the doctor that confirms the person dead, certifies the person dead, then they issue a certificate.
This will bring a lot of problems now, because some people have died and they went ahead to bury and there was no death certificate, and now there is money to be claimed.
Well, that was the wrong thing to do.
All right, we need to go on a commercial break. When we come back, we continue to stay tuned.
The show continues.
We can call back early enough because we have, say, barely 3 minutes to round off this conversation. So any final advice from you, Barrister Jubilee, as we round off?
Well, essentially, when something like that happens, call your lawyer. Get involved. This conversation on radio can be quite enlightening, but they don't go into the detail of your own peculiarity. So get your lawyer, ask them, show them, and then let them guide you through it, so that you don't get midway, because we've seen a lot of situations where people have messed up the process, stated wrong things in their affidavits, things that are inimical to the possibility of their getting, because they were talking emotionally and not legally. Yeah, so, and then they lost. So get your lawyer involved. Then you can read up some articles. There are a lot of articles online on OMLEX where I publish the articles. Just go around, read, learn, ask a lawyer eventually, and then go to the court premises. Not when you go to the court, go and make your inquiries, and then ask your banker. Your banker is not going to be your best helper because the money is helping the bank one way or the other, but they will have some good information for you.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister Jubilee, for your time. Quite an expository conversation, I must say. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, and that brings us sadly to the end of the conversation. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info PH. Our Facebook page is Nigeria Info 92.3 PH. Instagram and thread is Nigeria Info FM _PH. Follow me on Threads. I'm not on Threads, sorry. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at _Denise_Dennis. Follow my Facebook page, Denise Dennis, and follow my Facebook account, Denise Dennis Waller. Denise is spelled D-E-N-I-S-E. Dennis is spelled D-E-N-N-I-S. But I said Jubilee, your social media account.
Okay, Jubilee Work Corruption on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. But essentially, just browse High Rise Law Firm. You will see all the articles and stuff you will learn there.
All right then. Up next is Rivers Today, and thereafter Hard Facts with Kaladakoru Batabo. Do enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. I'll be back here same time tomorrow, 12 noon to just 3 p.m. on the sunny side. Stay tuned.